Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going over some Perfect Dark facts. I thought I'd write them down and we go over a couple because I have a lot stored up here. And a lot of them I don't really see being talked about a whole lot online. Like a few of these I sourced myself, and I know one of them for sure you guys will not know because I personally found it. And I haven't really talked about it a whole lot online. I think I may have talked about it in the Perfect Dark Zero Discord at one point, but I haven't really gone into it too much. So I thought I'd share it here. If you guys end up liking this sort of video and you want me to make more Perfect Dark Facts videos, please let me know. I have a whole lot to talk about. And this was kind of more of a fun thing for me to do because it really required no research. It just is already stored in the brain. So starting with the first fact, a lot of people don't know this, but the strip in Joanna's hair, this blonde strip here, is actually a genetic condition. It's a real life one called poliosis. They don't really talk about it a whole lot in the game, but in the books, they go into it a little bit about how her mom had this strip in her hair and it was kind of like a genetic thing. So I guess in theory her hair could exist in real life naturally, but I don't really see a whole lot of people going around with bright red hair. Another fact about Jo, the star tattoo on her neck was actually one that she got done in Hong Kong, China. It's a homage to the deathmatch team in the universe called the Seattle Slayers. The Seattle Slayers are basically like an esports team, and Joanna was really interested in deathmatch back then, and she wanted to try out to be part of their team, and she got it on the way. But that was actually when the events of Zero take place. If you've ever read the comic that comes with the limited collector's edition, then you know the course of events that happens, another group of bounty hunters swoop in and they're on the case of Ziegler. But yeah, interesting little story there. In the book, she talks about how Jack never really liked it, but he kind of seems to be the overprotective father type, so I guess that sort of makes sense. A fact about original Perfect Dark here, Cassandra Darez, I think that's how you pronounce it. She's actually not that much of a villain that you may think she is. She originally joined Datadyne because she wanted to make travel safer for everybody. Her brother died in a car crash when she was a little girl. I think he's 9 years old. And so ever since then, she kind of took this vow to want to make travel safer in general. So her and Carrington invented the null grav vehicle. It flies around instead of driving on pavement. And it has AI technology that's built in where it can essentially find a path for it, kind of like a Tesla, it knows where it's driving already. And so her intentions when joining Datadyne were actually pretty pure. And this goes for a lot of villains in Perfect Dark. None of them are really evil, maybe besides Trent, he's just kind of evil. And the Skedar, obviously. But the other villains in the game are just they are trying to do something with good intentions, but end up losing sight of it along the way. With Zhang Li, it's the pursuit to live, literally, because he's dying, he's sick. He wants to live in order to continue his company and be with his daughter and live a long life. But in the sight of that, he loses literally everything, and then he gives up his life at the end. The Carrington Institute and Datadyne actually used to have an alliance back in 2006. Carrington wanted to share computer research about extraterrestrials with Datadyne, and then very shortly after the project was started, Datadyne suddenly decided that they were cutting contact with Carrington and just without an explanation left. According to Perfect Dark Zero, Xbox is a real thing in their universe. This is supported by the fact that if you are to shoot Jonathan in the hand, there's a 1 in 5, I think, chance of him saying, "Can't play Xbox anymore," and grabbing his hand. You can find these audios in the game's files. I extracted these personally myself at some point, and that's how I know some of this. I don't know if anybody else has done it before, and I know there's a couple people now who have, but me and SSB Maggie created a tool to be able to decode files from the game, audio included. And this was one of the little things, and you can hear it in game too. It kind of is a rare thing that happens. Joanna actually briefly attended a school in Beijing. Her story pretty much takes place all over the world. She studies at a bunch of different schools in her childhood, and she's originally from Atlanta, Georgia, moves to Britain, and then she goes to China. She goes all over the place. But when she was studying in Beijing, she got in trouble because she punched a quarterback and sent him to the hospital, and so she was kicked out of school. I think inevitably she was homeschooled by Jack Dark, which is why she's sort of like an agent with his with his bail bonds agency now. And she also learned a lot from Chandra, who's in Zero. Jonathan actually used to be part of the Canadian Army. It talks about this a lot in the books, but if you also listen closely in Outpost Rescue, in a version of the game that's the offline copy, like before the 2006 update, you can sneak over to the little area that he's being held in and listen to a conversation he's having with an interrogator, where essentially he talks about his time, the captor talks about Jonathan's time with the army. He was dishonorably discharged for punching his sergeant in the face. Jonathan pretty much lost like his whole squad in battle, and he didn't believe that the army was what they were fighting for, what was really right. And inevitably, after he was discharged, Carrington saw potential in him, and Jonathan was wanting to follow what he believed was right above all else. And so that's how the Carrington Institute Covert Action Staff was formed. This one is my favorite. Chandra actually does not die in Zero, and I have definitive proof of this. If you go into the game's audio files, there's a set of unused dialogue between Carrington and a scientist, where they talk about Chandra being alive and basically waiting for her to wake up to ask for information about Data 9. So Carrington essentially saved her for information. I mean, really, it's debatable whether or not she lives past that, but I personally think she does, because if you look in the back of the Joannas Tattoos comic, there's a picture with all the characters on the back of it, and Chandra is one of them. So I guess that could imply that she's alive. It could also just be like a non-canonical picture. It just depends on whether or not you'd like to believe that Chandra's alive at the end of the day, but that is a little cool, little neat fact of something that they put in the game but never really ended up using. I haven't ever really seen anyone talk about this before. Even on like the cutting room floor, I haven't seen anything, so that might be new to you. One of the unplanned sequels to Perfect Dark was a game called Perfect Dark Core. It's supposed to take place 10 years after the original does, and Joanna's supposed to be like more mature, kind of like stone cold, like very past her days of her youth. I have a little bit about this in my drive. I have like some old PowerPoint presentations that they use and everything. Ultimately, the idea never ended up really going anywhere, but it's still kind of like a cool little thing. There's some demo reels of animations and stuff, and it's interesting to see what they would have gone with. Last but certainly not least, but the voice actor for Killian is also the voice actor for Thomas the Tank Engine in a couple of like kids shows. Additionally, Jack Dark is voiced by the same guy who voices Ziegler. So anytime you hear Jack Dark and Ziegler having a conversation with each other, just know that it's the same guy talking to himself. I thought that was a cute, cool, little neat fact. And another one I'll just slip in here. The Japanese voice actor for Jonathan also voices Kira Yoshikage in the anime JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I know that's like kind of a popular character, so I thought you'd find that funny. Hopefully you find it as funny as I do, because I've known that for like years, and every time I think about it I smile. It's just like ridiculous. That's pretty much it for today though. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my rambles about different useless information about Perfect Dark. If you want to see more of this, please let me know. It was a fun little video to make, not as stressful as they normally are, because I try to be, I try to research and know what I'm talking about before I talk about it, but this stuff I already kind of have in my brain already, so it was a little bit easier. And of course, I just love talking about useless information. It's so fun. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Have a perfectly dark day.